What's going on, everybody? This is the host of Recover Out Loud podcast, Sean Young. Before we dive in, I want to be clear. I'm not a medical professional. I'm not here to diagnose or treat. I'm simply a catalyst, someone who's walked through the fire and now speaks from experience, reflection, and a deep desire to help others find their way forward. This podcast may include honest conversations about addiction, mental health challenges, and suicidal thoughts or ideations. These are real parts of the human experience, and we won't shy away from them. If you're listening, please do so with self-care and self-awareness. And if you're struggling, please reach out. There's help out there. And most importantly, there's hope. Viewer discretion is advised. Now let's get it. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Recover Out Loud, episode 106. We're doing this thing. We've reached the hump 6 episodes ago. We're going to continue on this train. We got a really awesome guest today. We've got Joshua Pear. How you doing, Josh?
Good, man. Good, man. Thank you for having me on.
Man, thanks for volunteering your time, right? That's important. We're doing it on Saturday. We're doing this on Saturday. You could have been anywhere in the world doing anything that you wanted on Saturday, but you're here with me, and I appreciate you. So, Josh, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself, man? Give us an introduction as to who you are. We're having technical difficulties. Okay. No. It was me. Sometimes my internet likes to do these things. Anyways, we're still rolling with this. Josh, would you like to give an introduction as to who you are?
Yeah, man. My name is Joshua Pear. I'm a licensed chemical dependency counselor in long-term recovery from methamphetamines, and I like to do podcasting and share about my experience, not only coming out of drug addiction, but also stepping into emotional sobriety. That was very beneficial in a lot of areas of my life.
Absolutely. Right off the bat, man, you're a survivor, man, and that's pretty awesome. It's hard to, and I can only imagine. We're going to hear your story here in a second, but I can only imagine how hard it was, to get off the methamphetamines, man. Shit's the devil.
Yeah, it's a very, very strong drug. I remember I used amphetamines for a long time, but when I first tried methamphetamines, the first thought that went through my head was, why have I been wasting my whole life on all these other drugs when this has been here, and I'll do this for the rest of my life? And of course, thankfully that wasn't the case.
Yeah, absolutely. And I see a lot of people that are, kind of giving back to the community, in ways where, like, getting out and advocating for recovery. Whether it's, becoming a peer, becoming a chemical dependency counselor, such as yourself, or, a different pathway, such as what I'm doing now. And I'm so proud of those people that are getting out of it and are able to talk about it and able to help those and, the next person in line, get them clean, sober, and get them the help that they really need. Because essentially, this, in a weird way to say it, I'm not spiritual or anything, or I'm spiritual, not religious, but this is like God's work. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And it wasn't like I came out of recovery and it's like, I want to be a counselor. Actually, I was first asked if I want to become a recovery coach. I'm like, no. And then they're like, well, would you like to work for the sober living and be like a program director? I'm like, no. And then later on, I left there and I had got my degree in education because I love music and wanted to be in music education and stuff. And, life opportunities came up and had somebody say, hey, you want to become a counselor? Or actually, sorry, the first time was I was in counseling. At the end, she's like, you have a really good temperament for counseling. She said, I'll help you. I said, no. I had a career opportunity change, and they said, you want to become a counselor? I was like, well, I didn't have many options at that point. I needed employment. So I was like, I guess. But man, I fell in love with it. It took me a while. Like, I really wasn't about it at first, until I was big into recovery, like programs and stuff. I really love talking with people. I think that was a big thing that really helped me come out of the dysfunctional family system. Was sitting
Yeah.
in the hall of that sober living, connecting with people. Drugs was it wasn't just about getting high. It was like to be able to disassociate from the intense situation of different types of abuse, uh, and then also to kind of guard myself, really put up barriers in relationships that I had then. I had a bunch of shallow relationships with friends and uh, uh, different people along the way, and I don't think it was just because I was shallow or because that relationship was shallow. I think it now I know that it was a way to protect you from that abandonment. Like, if we don't get close, then you can't leave me, or if you don't know me, you won't have a reason to leave me. So all that ties back to control and looking at why I use substances all throughout my addiction, and then even after I put it down, I learned through counseling, going to counseling, I have control issues, and I know that has kind of a stigma to it, but when you're living in a dysfunctional, abusive, chaotic home, the chaos is there, and you have
Yeah.
to find ways to
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. You said you have a love for music. Off the top of your head, shotgun question. What is your favorite genre of music?
it jazz. Miles Davis is. I'm a guitarist, and he's a trumpet player. But I mean, he changed music 4 times. Like, who does that? He didn't just have a hit. He changed music 4 times. So yeah,
Yeah. I I I have an affinity for music. I love music. I mean, it kind of changes everything about, about my moods. If I'm in a bad mood, I can listen to certain genre of music and I'm fine. If I need
favorite
to get
band.
motivated, my favorite band, oh God, off the top of my head, Avenged Sevenfold.
Okay. Yep.
Yep. Avenged Sevenfold, Slipknot, and Breaking Benjamin would be top three.
I like Breaking Benjamin growing up. A lot of my friends like Avenged Sevenfold. They're very technical.
Yeah.
I've started gaining an appreciation for Slipknot. I would honestly, I turned my nose up for a long time, but
Yeah.
now listening back to it, I'm like, there's some good stuff in there, man.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, especially like you have a band with 9 members, and you like I theoretically would think it would sound like a train wreck, and it doesn't. And
Mm-mm.
it's really good music. I think the song that really stuck out to me that made me like fall in love with Slipknot even more was "Snuff" from their "All Hope Is Lost" or "All Hope Is Gone" album, because that was like pure raw emotion about a relationship that the lead singer went through and a breakup, and really it was about his mistakes, and it just changed the way that I view their music now. And yeah, so I love music a lot. It's really what about you? Who's your favorite band?
Favorite band. Ooh, like newer band. I like this guy right now, Oscar Jerome. He's a guitar player, singer. He does like kind of lo-fi, hip hop, jazz. Um, but I do like Alabama Shakes and Portugal the Man. Um, heavier stuff. Um, I love Tool. I've always loved Tool. Motorhead is kind of definitely one of my tops. I just like the raw, like Lemmy going at it with a distorted bass, Rickenbacker. Yeah, I mean, I love stuff like that, but I kind of had to change what I listened to a lot
Yeah.
because of the cognitive distortions that it's riddled with. And I feel so bad about talking about the people that I really admire their music, but a lot of it, if you look at it from uh, cognitive distortions or irrational core beliefs, man, that's where I learned how to view the world, life, myself, other people. And there was just a point to where I had to set that aside and find positive stuff. I worked on a farm for a while, and my main job on the farm was a pesticide applicator. How
Yeah.
to get a license for it and everything. It's 168 acres of a certain crop, and when we're applying it, you have to apply all different types of herbicides, fungicides, insecticides, and if you apply the wrong one by accident, you'll kill all your plants. But one thing I learned is like you can apply a certain type of herbicide that, and it will kill the grass, but it won't kill the plant.
Hmm.
And then also part of the same job, you have to apply all the nutrients, the calcium, the all the other nitrogen to give your
Yeah.
plants the nutrients that it needs.
Hmm.
And then also, during the season, say we didn't have that chemical, or maybe we weren't using it for that crop, I get to see how some plants would make it and some plants wouldn't, and just natural, like versus nature, right?
Yeah.
Um, I it probably about a few years ago, I was going through a really heavy life experience, and I wanted to put in Motorhead. I was mowing the grass, and I love Motorhead, right?
Yeah.
But I had a lot of negative emotions going on, and rather than doing that, I was like, well, I want to put on something positive. I put on a podcast, a
Yeah.
positive motivational speech podcast thing, and
Hmm.
I was mowing my lawn, and then afterwards, I noticed like I feel like I could just mow the entire planet right now. Like I just feel good, and what I noticed was the power of what we put into our brain.
Yeah.
Um, I know that sounds so cheesy, but it clicked with me that day.
Yeah.
I can either put poison, and I'm awesome music. I love all of it.
Yeah.
But the lyrics, the angst, the negative emotions that I used to connect with,
Yeah.
and still do, um, but can sometimes become toxic if we just reintroduce.
Oh yeah.
And so when I started looking for positive, I made a whole playlist of these positive motivational speeches. It really, I felt a physical effect, not just a mental and emotional, but a physical change. Going out and just having a different outlook changed the reactions I had to everything. And so, kind of back to the emotional sobriety, working on some of the past trauma, working on those irrational core beliefs, working on the messed up relational issues. A big part of that was up here. And I was getting so frustrated because the world was this way or that person was that way. And if work would just go like this and everything would be okay,
Yeah.
I had it backwards, or I would be okay. And when I started working on myself, then my whole world got better.
Yeah.
Um, I think we have to be very, very conscious about what we listen to, even though it's great music.
Yeah.
uh, that was something that has been an unlocked code in the past few years for me.
Absolutely. And you mentioned plants and like and cognitive distortion, man, and the stuff that we feed ourselves, like the music and even the TV shows we watch or the movies we watch, as well as the
Mm.
negative self talk or the self talk in general is very pivotal. And I took it. I did a little experiment. So I've recently started planting plants and out my front yard. I've got 3 rose bushes, and two of those rose bushes, I was like, "You're so beautiful. You're amazing. I'm so excited to see you grow up." The other one, I was like, "You're just a fucking runt." And I said that, right? And like I did this experiment, and the two that I gave positive talk to bloomed and blossomed really early, and they like beautiful flowers. Then the flowers withered, and then they're sprouting more. Whereas the other one literally just fell sideways and went flat, and it has a rose on it, and it's the most beautiful rose that I've ever seen come out of these three. But it
Wow.
was, yeah, but it was like it's kind of like a weird paradox to my life where I fed myself so much bullshit and I became this like human being. But then I see other people that feed themselves positive and they get to a point where they blossom and then it falls and then they start blooming. And like, yeah, so dude, it was crazy. So yeah, I mean, the cognitive distortion works everywhere. It really works, in all aspects of our life. So we've kind of we've kind of gotten off the beaten path, and that's my fault. That is my fault. So we're gonna go ahead and dive in your story, man. Josh, when was the first time that you remember using uh, drugs in your life?
All right. Um, I was 13.
Mm,
I was hanging out with a buddy of mine who was also on the football team.
mm,
Um, we went to smoke some weed.
mhm.
Apparently, it had crack in it,
Oh,
and
shit.
yeah, freaked me out. I ran like straight back to the house, locked myself in the bathroom. It was really intense. It didn't last long, but I remember just being super scared. Uh, Thought I was dying, and after that, I didn't smoke for a while, but I did eventually pick it back up. My brother had a ADHD and got prescribed Adderall,
Mm,
and he didn't like taking it. So I had just started experimenting with drugs. So he started giving it to me, uh, just so he didn't have to take it, and I started taking it. And the thing was, I had always struggled in school. Like I was in special ed. I love school. I love to be there because it was a way to kind of get away from things at home. But I was struggling,
yeah.
and when I took that little magic pill, my grades got better. I started, really doing well, uh, getting in a lot less trouble. So I started the practice of taking that for years. And when I couldn't get it from him, I would get it from my friends at school. And it was less about at that time, less about getting high. It was more about just trying to control how I felt. Um, I wasn't used to like just get out of my mind. I wasn't trying to uh, get just blinded or anything. It was just enough, and I would ration it. And you know that it made a lot more sense later on. I didn't understand why I did things like that. I grew up in a home where methamphetamine was around quite frequently in different periods of our life. Parents used, um, gone in and out of jail, stuff like that. Always around it, uh, but I never wanted to do it. And then when I did start to do it, I tried to just control it and then use it to just get through the daily life of what I was experiencing.
Yeah.
Um, it wasn't until uh, maybe high school that I even started like partying a little bit. But as it started to uh, I would experiment more than the use would actually pick up because again, it was all about control. I wanted to take this amount for this time period to make me feel this way for this long, and I wanted to make sure that I'd be able to get to until I can get some more. I was very kind of uh, regimented in that way. When I went off to college, I started partying more, but still with my amphetamine use, very regimented. I would experiment here and there, a little bit more experimentation. So there's an increase there, but for the most part, still very regimented. I did really good in school up until I went to Texas State, and I credit that to my focus shifting away from education to just getting high and partying and playing music. So, but I didn't see it then. I didn't see that slow shift. Um, the day I lost all my scholarships was, uh, it was the last day to drop a class. I failed human communications 2 times. Uh, Funny, right? Failed human communications 2 times. I'd never failed a class in college because, again, I was on amphetamines, doing pretty well, um, up until kind of shift in focus. It was the last day to drop classes. I was more concerned about getting this case of beer so that I could go give these people a case of beer so they would smoke me out. I didn't really drink. I drank, but it wasn't like in my life every day. Um, Drugs, but so anyways, I was more worried about that case of beer so that I could get drugs than I was dropping the classes. I forgot to drop the classes. Because I forgot to drop them, I lost my scholarship, which was a full ride for music. Then I lost my apartment because my apartment was paid for by the scholarships and student loans. And that was my dream at the time. So I lost my entire dream, my entire purpose. And what did I do to get back on track? I didn't. I went on a cocaine binge for a week. And cocaine really wasn't my thing. It just happened to be at the right, there at the wrong place at the right time. Uh, and I did that cocaine binge. And then my dad, who, and my mom came together one night, and which was weird because they don't ever hang out unless they're getting high. Red flag number one. Uh, and I'd been doing cocaine. My dad said, "Come do a line." My mom and my dad hate cocaine because in their eyes, it's a lesser type of drug and methamphetamine is better. I know that doesn't make any sense, but that's their rationale. And they said, "Come do a line." Red flag number two, my parents don't do cocaine. Uh, I thought I did the best cocaine in the world. I'm up 2 days later. But the thing was, I wasn't naive to drugs, but I was naive to the fact that they would give me methamphetamine. That just was not in my regardless of everything else I experienced with them. That didn't occur to me, and I feel like it was a block of me wanting them to be that parental role that they would protect me in that way. And that was their introduction to get me to come into methamphetamines. And of course, I was right there, willing and ready to do that line. And then right afterwards, like I said, it was like a light came on, and it was all I wanted to do.
Yeah. When you're talking about, starting to lose everything, and then your parents propose, come do this line. It was kind of like I just had this thought of like, hey, yeah, your life is falling apart. Why not? What's the worst that can happen? And you ended up getting hooked on methamphetamines. How far down did that take you, down the rabbit hole?
Man, so the the 10 years of doing amphetamines and drugs and all that, I mean, I was a handful, but I had a lot of friends, like real friends, good people. Um, but when I stepped into the world of methamphetamines, man, I lost a lot of them, and rightfully so. Some of them just backed away, and I'm glad they did. Um, the rest of them, I destroyed those relationships. I hurt them. I did all sorts of things. I was ugly. I stole, fought, um, anything you can think of, and some of it I don't remember, because I would stay up for like 2 weeks at a time. And I remember driving one time and just coming back to like I just woke up, but I'd been driving. And that 2 years, it just kind of felt like 2 weeks. It was I was using every day, as much as I could get a hold of. At the end of it, I was, homeless. Uh, I was able to hold a job, but I was taking showers at the lake shower,
Hmm.
and I remember breaking into a few houses to sleep in their house. I knew they were gone, so I broke into their house, and I slept in a shed for a number of weeks. Uh, it was intense living. My mom, she has a lot of mental health issues. Like with her, it's much easier to find that forgiveness and acceptance and love her, because she was like, as much as a terror that she is with everyone around her that loves her, she's that much to herself. So it's kind of like, well, and it's the psychosis, it's the schizophrenia and the other mental health issues she has that really drives her to kind of be in that state. So living in there was very intense. Um, so that was one of my motivators to quit. She was saying some very hateful stuff. She was kind of stuck in her like a cycle, and it made me so frustrated that I remember it was a very shallow prayer, but I said, God, I don't want this anymore. And I threw it. I had a light bulb. I had put my whole paycheck in there, and it was full of meth. I threw it at the wall. It busted, and immediately in my mind, I'm like, I should have smoked that first and then quit. But it was the last time that I ever used. I think he heard my prayer for what it was, and kind of moved some things in my life. And I had walked out. I didn't know where I was going. Uh, Again, I'd been sleeping all different kinds of places, but I remember it like snowing very, very heavily. I broke into the houses, and then one of my aunts had heard kind of the situation, and she came and picked me up. I had an unsuccessful suicide attempt about a couple weeks prior, and man, it was really hard, painfully to go through. And I remember just begging for my life all night long, and came through, pulled through, and I could barely walk. My legs weren't working properly. I was still trying to go to work and wash dishes and barely could stand up. And it wasn't 2 weeks later I was back on it, and then that's when that happened, where I threw the light bulb.
Man, that's wild. Looking back when you're talking about how your mom was dealing with some of the mental health issues, and being a counselor now, and chemical dependency counselor, uh, would you like? I would venture to say that some of those diagnoses, like the schizophrenia and like and uh, and the psychosis, may have been brought on by the drug use. Would you
Mhm.
kind of agree?
Definitely exacerbated it. My mom lived through like some very, very intense trauma, um, abuse, and then also the loss of her parents, and how that happened, her witnessing it. Um, that I'm sure it's nobody really knows where it comes from or how it develops, but they have their theories. And if I had to guess, man, that played a big part. And then yes, I agree. Um, and she started using early, like probably 13, 14, right around the time she met my dad and stuff. And so that using that early as a child through your adult years
Yeah.
heavily, that's going to affect your mental health.
Yeah. Affects every aspect of your brain.
Hmm.
So you got to that point where you walked out and you said, enough's enough. I'm done. Something needs to change." Is that the moment that you entered into recovery?
Uh, it's the moment that I started walking in that direction. I wouldn't even say that I was 100% committed. Like I said, even that prayer was not. Uh, it was half cocked, but you know,
You know,
you maybe you can identify with this of like it's hard to say this is my last time,
yeah.
and like know that it's going to be your last time. Honestly, I didn't want to be. I never stopped liking drugs. I didn't wake up and be like I don't want to do drugs no more. That never happened. What I got sick and tired of was the chaos that I was in. Um, so if there had been a way to make life work and keep doing drugs, I would have chose it at that time. Not now today, but at that time I would have. And so I go to the sober living. I check into the sober living. I get met by a bunch of other guys who have been in recovery for a little bit longer. Some of them have relapsed several times. Some of them have been to prison. Some of them have not. All different walks of life, and they just kind of welcomed me in. And I turned around and checked right out. I was like,
Yeah.
"There's a bunch of drug addicts in there.
That's not me.
I'm not supposed to be here." Uh,
Right.
I'm outside. Uh, my aunt comes pick me up. I stay with her for about a day or so, and they're like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I don't know." So I check back in, and I ended up staying for 8 years. Actually, it's a year. It was a year long program, but like I said, I think the biggest thing was just sitting in that hallway. That hallway is like so special to me more than anything because it was something about the hallway after work or before work and at the end of the evening or on the weekends, just sitting in the hallway. We had these other areas, but somehow we'd sit in the hallway, and that's where we'd have some really good conversations. Even how maybe we were starting out the day, maybe it was just to kind of encourage someone through to get through the day. Maybe it was sorry at the oh
All right. It's
I
okay.
expect that.
Well, we're here.
Maybe it was at the end of the day uh, to keep staying. And yeah, man, I would say about 6 months into it is when it. I know that I'm a late bloomer. If I would have been able to figure it out, but there was just at a point that I realized that I didn't. Oof, I didn't have anything on the outside.
Yeah. Yeah. I understand. I I know what you're talking about when you said you never stopped the love for the drugs. You just didn't like the way it made you feel. And for me, it was different. Like I hated the taste of alcohol, but I loved the feeling of like losing fucking control. Like absolutely loved it because I could blame the alcohol for my actions and be like, oh, dude, I was just an asshole because I was drinking. That's it. Like that's not really who I am, but I mean, like underneath it, that's who I was. I was just masking all of it, and I can relate, man. Like with I didn't fully sell into the program until a little bit later. Like I said I did, and I kind of like faked the funk because I didn't even know what it looked like. I'd never seen anybody successfully recover from any form of addiction. And when and all I thought was like, I'm just a quitter. That's it. And it wasn't until I had that moment of complete, and it just came at the most random moment, man. It, and it wasn't like I lost everything, but just I had a day where everything just sucked, man. I blew a tire. I went to go get it replaced. I didn't have any money in my account. My my phone had died, and I couldn't charge it. Therefore, I didn't have like X, Y, and Z, and I just kind of like sat there and I said the Serenity Prayer, and
Mm,
I never said the Serenity Prayer before that. I just kind of like I can't control any of this. I need to learn to accept it. And that was the surrender moment. And then things started changing. I mean, I had aha moments throughout my, early recovery, but that moment of like I have zero control over what happens next really kind of like changed the way that I started to view my recovery is like I have control over only a handful of things, but I also have control over not using or not drinking again. And to me, that like really helped out a lot. And I have those, those profound moments. And it seems like the hallway was a real big one for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was the people. And I think that's still something today of, again, why I like to do this and talk about it. I still see some of them. Some of them doing good, some of them not so good. But I think it's these conversations that really carry a lot of the value. Um, like what you do, the peer recovery, that's important. It's important to have somebody who is a little further down the road that kind of maybe doesn't know what steps you should take, but can say, hey, I've had to take some hard steps. I've had to deal with this life situation and this life situation. And although I may have not handled it as good, I just didn't go back. And as long as you can just not go back and do whatever you were doing, that's huge. That is huge. Continued self-growth. Really, I didn't do that till years later. I thought I was good. I put down the drugs and alcohol, and I thought all my problems were going to go away. What I realized was, like you said, it was. I don't know that I was necessarily blaming it on the drugs and alcohol. I blamed it on me being crazy. But I did think that my problems would go away, and they didn't. It just kind of, one, I think, quit exacerbating the problems that were already there, and then also allowed me to have the mental wherewithal to even try, and emotional wherewithal to even try to start working on that. Uh, the fear of abandonment, the people pleasing, the performance based self worth, all of that stuff was really doing a number in my life, because now that I have drugs and alcohol out of my way, now I have another way to kind of control how I feel.
Yeah.
And it came through being the best at something or the hardest worker, trying to be the smartest person in the room, trying to be the most helpful, trying to be, excuse me, and, or just, do whatever it takes so that this person don't run me off, type of deal. And that was another process, and all kind of throughout that, it was a faith-based program. I was learning more about kind of how you discuss spirituality versus religion. I grew up in like all my uncles are either have been alcoholics, have been truck drivers, or are truck drivers and preachers. Some of them have been all three. So, and but kind of growing up in a family that is, very faith based. My dad, he took a lot of things out of context. I think he would just kind of quote things and twist things to get, and then use that as a way to get you to do what you think you should do, what he thinks you should do, because the Bible said so. And it wasn't until like later on. Here's an example, and it's thrown off, but this is kind of stuff he would say. He would say, if I had a girl like arguing with me or not doing what I want them to do, he said, you know what you do with an unruly woman? or the Bible says to do, you tie a millstone around their neck and throw them into the sea.
Wow.
Like, so something like that is in the Bible, but what it's talking about is the person who causes a child to stumble. That's ironic.
Yes.
So he would do things to get me to react emotionally or to submit to him. Stuff like obey your father and mother, all that sort of thing, and it kind of really messed me up religious wise, and how I view God, how I viewed, and I love church. Church was also another kind of sanctuary type place of being able to get it was like school, church, and that hallway was my way of like getting away from the chaos. But I still struggled with the people pleasing, with the performance based self worth, and the fear of authority. These are all what's called laundry list traits from Adult Children of Alcoholics Anonymous. Uh, I love that program because it addresses not just the drugs and alcohol use, but it also addresses a lot of the emotional trauma and then the dysfunctional family systems.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. We're going to have to call it, but we're going to do a part 2.
All right,
This
man. Yeah.
this requires a part 2. It really does. Um, Josh, I want to take a moment and I want to thank you for sharing real vulnerable moments with me and with us. And I want to thank you for being a part of this show. Your story is very important, and not just important for the aspect of awareness, but also the aspect that there's hope, right? Because people like you and me, sometimes we're not meant to make it. And here we are.
Yeah. Thank you so much, man.
Absolutely. And everybody, I want to take a moment and say thank you for being with us for this moment in time. Thank you for sharing this space with us. I just want to say you are loved, you are worthy, and you are worth it. Have a nice day.